Hello guys, welcome back to my channel and enjoy this fanfic part 2. Now let's start the fanfic. Kaharu then speaks out. "You're being unreasonable, Rukage," she yelled, getting a smirk from Kushina. "Payback's a bitch, isn't it, elder?" she said, making the woman sneer at her. "This is blasphemy. Daimyo-sama, don't you think she's being unreasonable?" Danzo asks, only for the man to look at him. "Actually, Danzo, I don't," Hiroshima said, making the four pale. The ruler of Hai no Kuni was agreeing with the foreigner's side. But sir," Danzo started to say until the man silenced him with a hand gesture. "Kushina-sama, I agree with the financial retribution as well as the jutsu list from the cage vault. But I wish you would reconsider having 85% the village executed," Hiroshima says, and Kushina looks at the man for a while and lets out a sigh. "Fine. But in return, I demand 10A and 10S ranked mission scrolls from them," Kushina said, and the elders opened and closed their mouths with no words coming out. "Very well," Hiroshima states and looks at Seijuro, who nods back at the agreement. Sarutobi sadly nods back while the elders look at the table with frowns on their face. "Oh, and Danzo," Kushina called the war hawk, while the man looks up only to see a scroll tossed at him and he catches it. He opens it, and a pile of corpses with blank masks with the kanji, "nay," on them appeared in a bloody pile, making the man's single eye widened, as did the others. "The next time you want to send your drones to me, make sure they're at least cage level. Oh, and I want double of what I requested. You can thank Danzo here for that," she said with an evil grin on her face, making them as white as a sheet of paper. And after that, Hiruzen glared hard at the now scared man, releasing murderous intent on him, and then Hiroshima spoke up. "I will personally make sure that the retributions are accounted for, Kushina-sama, Seijuro-sama," he said, getting a nod from them. As they started to file out, after the summit is adjourned, Sarutobi looked at Kushina. Kushina cut him off. "Save it, old man. I don't want to hear your piss-poor apologies. You're a disgrace to your village, your clan, to your predecessors, and my husband. I'm gonna say this one time and one time only. Keep your council on a leash, because you've got one time to piss me off, one time to try anything against my children, and one time make me regret sparing your village, and not even the daimyo will stop me from sending my entire force to your village and wiping it off the face of the earth." She then got in his face and gave him a look that would make the Shinigami proud. "I will make you watch as I destroy everything you and the former cages worked hard to create, and then I will you and mount your head on my wall," she said in a cold and dark tone while her eyes flashed golden yellow for a few seconds while the Sandame flinched and gulped. A day later. After the eventful meeting, Seijuro went back to the capital of Ryu no Kuni, and Kushina returned to the village. The fire daimyo had his messenger send the money as well as the jutsu and mission scrolls she wanted for retribution. The civilian council, -1, were not happy about it and wanted the man to reconsider it, but Hiroshima ignored their protests. Making a single councilwoman happy for her friend pull off. She refused to pay for what they deserved, before the fire daimyo called her and gave a letter, that turns out, it was a secret message for Kushina. She appreciates him and Kushina. Right now, Kushina had decided to take a couple of days off to spend with her children, due to all the stress Konoha has put her through. Kushina, her kids, Ayane, Ryu, Kasumi, Momiji, Kurha, and Scherzer were at the lake relaxing. Kushina and Scherzer were lying on their backs on towels, sunbathing in their bathing suits while the kids were in the lake splashing and laughing. Scherzer looks over at Kushina and speaks up. "Kushina, have you considered getting remarried or dating again?" she asked, getting a raised eyebrow from the woman. "Since when did my personal life interest you, Scherzer?" she asked, only for the woman to sigh. Come on, Kushina, I know Minato was your first love and you miss him, but you should move on and find someone else. Minato would want you as well as your children to be happy. She stated, and Kushina sighed. I don't know if I can, Scherzer. I can't have any more children, plus I'm in my early 30s. There aren't a lot single 30-year-old males in the village. She stated. Scherzer frowns, but then a grin appears on her face. What about Rikamaru? She asked, and a tint of pink and make it red appears on the redhead's face. Since few friends called Arashi as a nickname. His real name is Arashi Rikamaru Kazama, the Sotaicho of the Anbu. What about him? Kushina asked, only for Scherzer's grin to widen. Oh, come now Kushina, you should ask him out on a date. She insisted, making the woman sit up and look at her. Scherzer, she exclaimed while Scherzer blinks. Just asks the man out on a date, Shina. You need a man in your life. Naruto and Tasuki likes him. Just give it a shot. She says while Kushina blushes and looks at the sky for a while and then sighs. Fine. I'll ask him tomorrow, since he's off that day. She replied, and Scherzer grins at her best friend. Just don't blow it or you'll never hear the end of it from me. She said, and Kushina's brow twitches. After that, everyone left the lake. Kushina, Naruto, and Tasuki were heading towards the compound until they heard a deep masculine voice. Yo, Kushina. The three turn around to see a man with long white spiky hair that was tied into a ponytail, and on his head was a headband with the kanji for you oil on it. He wore a green ninja gi with a mesh shirt underneath it as well as a red vest and geta sandals. He was Jiraiya, the Gamma Sennin and one of the Sannin. Kushina saw Jiraiya and blinked in confusion. Jiraiya, what are you doing here? Did Sarutobi send you here? She asked as she narrowed her eyes at the man who blinked in confusion. No, he didn't. He said, looks at Naruto, and his eyes widen as he looks at Naruto. Kushina, is that? He started to say, only for Kushina to nod. Yes, Jiraiya, this is your so-called dead godson. She answered, and the man's eyes widen in shock and then they narrow. I'm gonna beat the shit out of Sarutobi. He said, scowl, and Kushina blinks at the man. So he lied to you too, right? She asked, only for the man to nod, and Naruto looks up at his mother. Hey Ka-san, who's he? He asked. That signals Jiraiya was about to do his introduction, when Kushina interrupted him. He's your Kyofu godfather, Sochi. Jiraiya, the Gamma Sennin. He's also the man who trained your father. She answered, only for Jiraiya's head and shoulders to slump. Kushina, you interrupted my cool entrance. He whines while Tasuki giggles, and Naruto's sweat dropped and looked back at his mother. Are you sure he trained San? He looks like a goofball and a pervert. Naruto stated, only for Jiraiya to face fault and get up to glare at the boy. I am not a pervert. I'm a super pervert, he proclaimed as he puffed his chest up. Naruto's brow twitches at his proclamation. That not something you should be proud of and state, Ero Sennin. Naruto replied, and the man face faulted once again. Kushina bit her lip, tried to stop from laughing while Jiraiya sat up and glared at boy once more. Don't call me that, Jiraiya yelled while Kushina laughed as did with Tasuki. Just like his father. He called me that too, and now his brat is calling me that. He ranted until he calmed down and spoke up. Anyways, Kushina, the reason I came here is because I would like to train the kids for a couple of years and teach them some of my personal jutsu. Jiraiya replied. What? Kushina looks at him for a while and then speaks up. I don't mind. Besides, you have a lot of catching up to do with your godson, but if you turn him into a pervert, I will make Tsunade's beatings look like an act of mercy once I'm through with you. The red-head Kage said in a sweet, but dangerous tone, making the man sweat bullets. I won't. Jiraiya said nervously and mentally add, yet, at the same time. Naruto looks up at his mother again to speak. Is he really that strong, Ka-san? He asked, and Jiraiya gives the boy a look of shock and hurt. Gaki, you mock my skills as a ninja. I'll have you know that I am without a doubt one of the strongest ninja in the world. Heck, I could give your mom here a run for her money. Jiraiya said with a grin on his face, making Naruto's and Suki's eyes widen. Ka-san, can he really take you on? Tsuki asked, since her mother is the strongest ninja in the village, and Kushina nods while rubbing the back of her head. Yes, he can, Tsuki-chan. I remember all those spars we had with him and your two-san. He actually knocked me out in our first fight, she said while Jiraiya smirked at her. Sure did. You were getting arrogant, and so I had to knock you down a couple of pegs. The Toad Sage replied. Naruto, however, was scratching the back of his head. Why is it that some of the most powerful people in the world are weird, Tsuki? He asks his twin, who shrugs while the two adults laugh at them. 4 years later. At an empty restaurant near the borders of Kaminari no Kuni, Lightning Country, a manager named Taro was currently being harassed by a group of yakuzas who had bats, clubs, and a few had guns with them. Any series of MP5KS, Uzis, M4s, AKs, M9s, Glocks, Desert Eagles, and Sig Saucers, etc., installing dot sights or ACOG scopes or laser sights. That's right, mates, there are guns in this story, since I combined the Naruto world with the Ninja Gaiden world by using the Call of Duty style with customized arsenals and badass StarCraft weapon selectable style, so I will be had Sonya select those guns plus combat knives and ninja blade style too, and advised you guys not flame me, cause this is fanfiction, fans. Taro was currently gulping as one yakuza named Maki, who was wearing an all-black suit with brown spiky hair, a tattoo on the right side of his face, and holding a bat, walks towards the man with the bat resting on his shoulders. Look. I already said I didn't need protection from your boss, so please leave. He begged, only for the leader to snort and then kicked a table over with his foot, making the man whimper. Kojira-sama didn't ask if you wanted protection. You're getting it and will pay us for it or else, he said as he points his bat at the manager's face. I don't want your protection and I'm not paying you for it. Taro yelled, and Maki snatched the man up by the collar and slammed him into the wall, getting a cry of pain from the man. He drops his bat on the ground and pulls a switchblade out of his back pocket and points the sharp steel at his neck. Either you accept his offer or you're gonna have a bigger smile on your, he started to say, until his body jerked and he looked down to see a knife in his torso and blood drips from his gut. He drops the switchblade and Taro pulls the blade out and kicks the man in the face, sending him flying into a table, which shatters. The others had shocked looks on their faces while Taro flicks the blood off the knife. Aniki. A yakuza grunt cried out and aimed his 9mm pistol, M9, at the manager. You son of a, he said, until he was hit by a barrage of shuriken that flew from the ceiling. 3 hit him in the chest and torso, 2 hit him in the back, and 1 hits him in the back of his skull. The man dies before he hits the ground, and the other gangsters freak out at this. What the hell is going? Another one said, only for his head to be looped off by a flash of silver and blood squirts from his neck and sprays everywhere. Taro had a smirk on his face and pulled 4 throwing knives out of his sleeves and throws them at the rest, who had barely any time to react. 3-word instantly the others cried out in pain. A redhead appears between 2 of them and plunges her twin kodachis into their spines, ing them instantly. She was wearing a whole-body jumpsuit that was red and black with a dragon on the back and had arm guards on her arms and fingerless gloves. She also wore a black face mask that covered half of her face. The front part of her suit was slightly unzipped, revealing a mesh shirt. A ninja leaps wearing an all-whole-body black outfit with a headpiece that resembled a dragon's crest falls from the ceiling with his blade, Shinken no Ruken divine dragon sword, drawn and performs a diagonal slash down on one Yakuza and vivisects another, separating his upper and lower body. After the small massacre, Taro turns into a puff of smoke, and when it clears, a 14-year-old male with wild blonde spiky hair, Yondaime's hairstyle, and wore a deep blue and silver bodysuit with a face mask, arm guards and fingerless gloves. Strapped to his back and belt were Ruken and Shikan no Ryujin, dragon sword and fang of the dragon god, his family's heirlooms. Well, that was fun. Naruto said admitted and walks over to a bleeding Maki who was trying to stop the bleeding from his torso with his hands and Naruto grabs the man by his hair and lifts him up to his eye level. Look, you're gonna die soon, so why not tell us where your boss is? He asked only for the man to be silent until Naruto punched him in his bleeding torso and blood squirts out of it. Maki screams out on pain as Naruto dug his fist into the injury. You're only prolonging your death, you fool. Tell me where he's hiding and I'll make you death quick and painless. He says as he applies more pressure. Maki had enough and spilled his guts and answered. Okay, I'll talk. Kojira-sama is staying at a 5-star hotel called the White Cloud, in the upper district where he's being guarded by his personal guards and some ninja with black spider symbols he hired. He's staying in the penthouse on the right side of the building. Thank you. Naruto appreciated and the blade came out on his wrist and slits the man's throat in a quick manner, ing him instantly. You know, you always likes to play around with Assassin's Creed, right? Ryu comment. Since Naruto started to like to play that game, Assassin's Creed, since it's a new game this year past, since the blacksmiths insisted to build the same weapons as the game. It's now the futures comes to the past and there's modern computers. I know. Naruto replied as his hidden blade slides back. Ryu pulls out a scroll and seals the bodies in it. I'm pretty sure some of these guys have bounties on their heads, especially the one with the tattoo. He states. Tsuki then sheathes her kodachis and walks over to Naruto and Ryu. The personal bodyguards should be no problem, but the black spider nin will be a problem. We need to get rid of them first. Tsuki stated about the arch-enemies of the dragon nin. Naruto nods in agreement. Yes, we'll deal with them first before we go for his personal guards. Once we deal with the guards, we'll deal with Kojira. He said, getting a nod from them and the Shunshin out of the restaurant. White Cloud penthouse . Inside the penthouse was a bulky man wearing a purple and black suit. He had black hair that was slicked back with a few gray strands in it and a scare on the left side of his head. His name is Kojira Sosuke, a crime boss of the Yakuza gang. He was also a former cutthroat and hitman of the group until he had an incident when facing an assassin that was after the bounty on his head. He was now sitting in a chair, drinking red wine out of wine glass. He was waiting for Maki and his group to come back with the protection money. If not, that the manager's head. Outside his room were his guards who were wearing black suits with white dress shirts and black ties armed with SMGs with less or few reflex and laser sights, and 4 grips. The others were patrolling the upper room. On the roof were 8 black spider nin equipped with katanas, wakizashis, axes, and gauntlets. They were watching the rooftops and looking out for any ninja. Meanwhile, 3 figures were watching. Tsuki was crouching on a telephone pole with a pair of goggles and zoomed in on the rooftop to see 8 spider nin patrolling the rooftop of the penthouse. She then removes goggles from her face and leaps off of the pole and lands into an alley. Ryu appears from out of the shadows and approaches her. We got a total of 12 guards patrolling the upper room where the penthouse is. Judging by their outfits, they're probably equipped with firearms. Ryu informed before asked. What about the rooftop? There are a total of 8 spider nin patrolling the roof. Tasuki states, and Ryu nodded. A beeping sound comes from his comm link and he clicks the headpiece that was in his ear. Yeah, there's a total of 8. Naruto, should I handle them? Ryu asked. Okay, I'll handle the spider nin, and you and Tasuki will handle the guards. Okay, I'm about to heading there. He replied and clicks the earpiece to turn it off. Meet Naruto at the 10th window on the northeastern side of the building and he'll meet you there. Ryu said. Tasuki nods and shunshuns out of the alley and Ryu merges with the shadows and disappears. White cloud penthouse rooftop . A black spider nin just got finished sharpening his sword and was about to rejoin the patrol group until he was hit in the skull by 3 shuriken. His body jerks back and he hits the ground with a thud. Ryu appears in a crouching position and pulls out an exploding tag, placing it on the man's body. He then grabs the spider nin and flings him over an air duct. The body lands in between a small group of spider nin who jump up with their weapons ready. They approach the body carefully and see a tag on the dead spider nin's body. Ryu was behind the air duct and has his hand in a ram seal. Kai. He mutters and channels chakra into the tag, which glows yellow then explodes into fire. 3 of them end up being set ablaze and were screaming and rolling around the ground. The other 2 had 3rd-degree burns on their arms and legs, trying to put the flames out. A black blur was heading towards them and when one of them looked up, he was decapitated by a silver flash. It was Ryu with Shinken no Ruken drawn. The headless spider nin falls to the ground and the others rush at the dragon nin. Ryu pulls out 5 shuriken and flings them at the 2. One deflects them with his gauntlets and swipes at Ryu's head. Ryu sidesteps the attack and the other spider nin does a horizontal slash with his wakizashi. Ryu blocks it with his blade and roundhouse kicks the nin on the back of his head, making him stumble backwards. Ryu then spins and cuts off the man's right leg and he hits the ground clutching his missing limb in pain as it bled out while the young dragon stabs him in the head, ing him instantly. 4 more nin appear around him with their weapons ready too. Ryu looks around and then twirls his blade twice and gets into a kenjutsu stance. The 10th floor . The bodyguards heard the explosion and run around in different directions looking for the source. Naruto appears in the air with Ruken drawn and hands. He rushes at 2 of them who were firing their 9mm and .45 ACP guns at Naruto who was deflecting the bullets with his blade. The guns went blank and started to click, shocking the bodyguards who tried to reload the clips. Naruto leaps into the air and performs a spin kick on the one from the right. The impact sends him flying into a wall and his skull hits it, leaving an imprint and falls to the ground unconscious. When Naruto lands, the other one tosses his gun to the side and pulls out an electric tonfa. He charges at Naruto who sheathes his sword and gets into a CQC stance. The guard charges at Naruto and takes a swing at his midsection. Naruto sidesteps and grabs the man's arm. He twists it hard, hearing the snapping of bone. The guard cries out in pain as he drops the electric tonfa only for Naruto to grab it and strikes him in the torso with it, making the guard keel over from the electric currents running through his body. Naruto then lets him go and strikes him in the back of the neck and he topples over. He tosses it aside and sees his sister kick one guard into a wall and then leaps over one that tried to strike her from behind. She grabs his head, flips over and pushes her body forward, flinging the man into another group of guards. She then throws a kunai, which had an exploding tag on it at the ceiling. When it hits, she performs a ram seal saying, "Kai," and it explodes. Large chunks of debris fall and the guards scream as they are crushed under the rubble. Inside the penthouse, Kojira had a gold-plated Desert Eagle Mark 19 in his hand and was heading for the elevator as he heard the sounds of guns firing, blades slicing into flesh, the sounds of screaming and explosions shaking the ground. He had a limp in his leg and was using his cane to help him move forward. He was now at the elevator and about to reach for the button until he heard a crashing sound and saw one of his guards come flying through the destroyed door and sliding across the floor and stops having a bloody, swollen, and broken face. Shit. Kojiro muttered and reaches for the button again only for a barrage of kunai and shuriken to come flying at him. He curses once again and barely avoids them. They destroy the panel as sparks buzz around the destroyed elevator panel. He aims his gun at the entrance and starts to fire at the smoky entrance. Little did he know that Naruto was already in the room on a metal beam with a kusarigama in his hands, the one from Ninja Gaiden Sigma 2. He twirls the end that had the metal spiked ball in it and then he flings it at the man's hand that had the Desert Eagle in it and knocks it out. What the? He exclaimed as the gun goes scattering across the room. He turns his head to see Naruto on the beam twirling the sickle end. Kojiro tries to run away, but when he does, then he cries out in pain as the sickle is embedded into his spinal column. Blood spurted from his injury and he fell down, losing all feeling in his lower body. Naruto yanks the sickle out and grabs the handle, swiping the blood off of it and seals it into a scroll. He then lands onto the floor and walks over to the man who was crawling on his belly with his hands trying to reach for his gun, but Naruto plants his foot on his back and he screams out as his spine snaps. Naruto pulls out his blade and places it in a stabbing position near the back of his head. Any last words, Yakuza? Naruto says in monotone while Kojiro snarls and clenches his fist. You. Was all he said. Squelch. Asterisk. The blade was embedded into his skull, ing him instantly. A puddle of blood started to form around the man's body and Naruto removes the tip out of his head and swiped the blood and brain matter away. That was when the body of a spider nin came crashing through the ceiling and hits the ground hard, creating a small crater. Naruto looks up and sees Ryu leap from the hole in the ceiling and into the penthouse. He kicks the dead body away and walks towards the blonde dragon who was sheathing his sword. Mission accomplished, Naruto said while Ryu lets out a sigh of relief. Finally, a feminine voice exclaimed. Tsuki was walking into the room dragging the unconscious body of a Yakuza guard. We managed to take care of all the Yakuza crime lords in Kaminari Lightning. Not that it was tough or anything, but these guys were pushovers. She said while Ryu nods. You would think they would at least hired some Misen Nin to protect them or at least more Black Spider Ninja. Ryu said in a bored tone while Naruto chuckles. Well, we can finally go home after hunting crime lords for 6 months. He comment and they both nod. Come on. We need to get out of her because I am not paying for the damage. He says and the three shunshin away. Naruto, Ryu, and Tsuki were used to this kind of thing. They got used toing and fighting and they started when they were 12 years old. They halved crime lords, corrupt politics, gangsters, pirates, and even stopped the smuggling of drugs and illegal weapons. After collecting the bounty on the Yakuza crime lord, they headed back to the Hayabusa village via dragon summon. Naruto, Ryu, and Tsuki each signed the summoning contract for the legendary dragons since it was their birthright and Naruto was given Rukin and Shakan no Ryujin when he turned 13 and Kushina gave Tsuki her blade, aka Arashi. When the dragon landed near the compound, Ryu left to head to his family's compound. Naruto created a shadow clone and had it take the mission report to the Dragon Tower. After being greeted by the servants, Naruto and Tsuki went to their separate rooms. Naruto closed the door and removed his ninja outfit and gear, wearing a mesh shirt and boxers under it. He places his blades on the sword stand and then grabs a pair of shorts, boxers and a towel and heads to his private bathhouse. After taking his bath, He dries himself off and puts on his boxers and shorts while leaving his well-toned muscular body shirtless. He walks towards his bed, ready to lay down on it until he felt a pair of soft feminine arms wrap around his waist and felt a body press up against his back. A smile appears his face as Ayane's hands travel across his chest and abs, and after doing that for a while she latches her hands around his waist and inhales the scent of his hair. "Hello Ayane Haim," he said while she giggles and kisses him on the cheek. "Hello Naruto-kun. I missed you," she said. They walk towards his bed. Ayane removes her hands from his waist and Naruto turns around to see a smiling Ayane. She was now 5 feet 3 and had a figure any girl would to have. She had clear violet hair that stopped to her shoulders and ruby red eyes. She is wearing a gray sleeveless shirt that hugged her body and showed off her curves and C-cupped, and wore a pair of short purple shorts that showed off her flawless legs and hugged her hips. "I missed you too, Tenchi," he says, getting a small blush from her, and she kisses him on the lips. They stop and Naruto goes and lays his back on his soft comfy bed. Ayane joins him but lays next to him and rests her head on his chest. He wraps his arms around her and pulls her closer to him. He then closes his eye while Ayane smiles at this and does the same. Ever since Naruto saved her from the Red Tengu, Ayane has become more open with Naruto. She even cried for him when he told her about his life in Konoha and that he was the container of the Kyuubi no Yoko. Kasumi, Momiji, and Kurha did the same when he told them, and it resulted in him being hugged to death by the crying girls. As he told them about, he had met a single girl before she took away from him by his mother. Since the girls told them her name, he told them the answer when the time came. So, they gave him a hint by Cherry. Just as Naruto told them about his first friend, he told them when the time comes. After living with Naruto and his family for almost 6 years, Ayane's feelings for Naruto went from a crush to actual love. At first she was afraid that he would reject her, but surprisingly, he stated that he had feelings for her too. Now Naruto earned her trust to give and answer the hint of the cherry. That made her surprised that it was a name, so Ayane will keep the secret for time being. They then became a couple, which seemed to hurt Momiji and Kasumi since they also developed feelings for the blonde but wanted Ayane to be happy since it wouldn't be fair to her since they had a lot in common. Surprisingly, Naruto got out of his denseness when it came to girls when he got older. Actually, Tasuki had to literally beat it out of him, as did Jiraiya, who stated that both he and his father were blockheads when it came to women. Kushina and Kurumi Kyuubi had never laughed so hard when they watched her daughter and Jiraiya beat some sense into his head. After Kushina told her son and Ryu about the CRA, he nearly had a heart attack, as did Jiraiya, due to the fact that his godson got to live everyman's dream. They was skeptic at first but realized that it would help restore their clans, so they agreed to it. That and Kushina and Scherzer wanted lots of grandkids whom they can spoil. Naruto knew that Kasumi and Momiji had feelings for him, and when he told Ayane about it, she said that she'd agree with letting Kasumi and Momiji join his clan and he would tell them about it. And includes her. Kushina told the girls about she had a friend in Konoha. About 2 or 3 at least. Since she can't risk herself for sending a letter to her friend since they had talk about they were in a academy years ago in Konoha. So she sent one, secretly gave it to the fire daimyo to her friend, so that way to keep themselves touch until the time came. Of course she came up with this wild proposition. The girls were curious about. So Kushina replied that during the time she was 6 months pregnant with Naruto and Tasuki. She actually came up with the bizarre idea of wanting her daughter marry Naruto. Of course her friend laughed because Kushina thought her was going to give birth to a girl. That made surprised for the girls talking about Naruto's friend. They told Kushina that she had pink hair, That triggers Kushina to smile, for she know a person had a pink hair too. The girl's questions that Kushina actually brought up the idea of the two of them marrying. Kushina was so persistent too. Kept telling her friend that her son and her daughter would make the most adorable and beautiful babies. That only made Naruto blushed about his mother did made a unofficial arranged marriage. He did told her that she did had a pink hair is true. Since Ayane didn't mind. So, Kushina told him she haven't sent a letter for a while after the twins were born. Since she can't risk it to send Anathat, so she'll keep in touch with her. The next morning Naruto opened his cerulean blue eyes to see Ayane sleeping on top of him with her head on his chest. He smiles at the sight, hearing her snore lightly with her hands on his chest. He brushes a strand of hair from her face and she stirs for a while. She opens her ruby red eyes and sees Naruto grinning at her. Morning Tenchi. He greet and she smiles back. Morning Naruto-kun. She replied and moves up to kiss him on the lips. Naruto sat up with Ayane on his lap and deepens the kiss. Ayane does the same and wraps her arms around his neck. Naruto had both of his hands on her hips and pulls he even closer, and Ayane brushes her hands through his soft blonde hair. Naruto then moves his hand downward and slips it under her shirt and caresses her stomach, making her shiver slightly. Naruto manages to get his other hand under her shirt and lifts it up, revealing her well-toned torso, which she gained from training. Ayane removes her lips from his and a sly smile appears on her face. Naruto, if you wanted me to remove my clothing, all you had to do was ask. She replied, only to giggle when he tickles her sides and stomach. Be careful what you wish for, Tenchi. I might do more than strip you of your clothes if you keep teasing me. He says, getting a blush from the girl. Naruto removes his hands from her hips and she gets off his lap and pulls her shirt down. Should we get ready for our morning run? He asked and she nods. Naruto went into his closet and pulled out a blue sleeveless shirt, gray pants, and a pair of blue and white running shoes, as he wore the same hidden blade bracer for precaution. Ayane went to her room to change and put on a purple tank top, gray jogging pants, and a pair of purple and white shoes. After that, they walk out of the compound and stretch for a while. Naruto pulls out an iPod and puts the headphones in his ears and starts playing Agony by Kotoko. Ayane pulls out hers as well and they start running around the quiet village. After running for 45 minutes, they stopped near a park to relax. Naruto was drinking out of his water bottle when he noticed a redhead and a teenager making out on a bench. It was Ryu and Tasuki. Tasuki was sitting on his lap with her arms wrapped around his neck and Ryu had his wrapped around her waist. Ryu was wearing a black sleeveless shirt, black jogging pants, and white running shoes, and Tasuki was wearing a red tank top with red jogging pants, and red and white running shoes. Naruto saw this and a grin appeared on his face. He looks over at Ayane, who was drinking water out of her bottle, and taped her on the shoulder. She turned her to see a grinning Naruto pointing in a different direction, and she turns her head in that direction, only to spit her water out of her mouth and her eyes as wide as dinner plates when she saw Tasuki and Ryu making out. Naruto then shunsons behind the bench they were making out on and stood up. Ahem. He coughed out and the two froze and opened an eye to see Naruto smirking at them. You two, don't you realize that this is a park, right, and kids play here? He asked. Ryu and Tasuki jump off of the bench and looking away with their faces glowing red. Ayane appeared next to Naruto with her arms wrapped around his and was smiling at them. So this is what you two do early in the morning. What would your mother say if she saw this, Ryu-san? Ayane asked and Ryu glares at them while they grinned. Speaking of mothers, Ka-san didn't come home last night. Naruto said, think about that subject. Suki's eyes widen, but then grin appears on her face. I bet that she has stayed with Arashi-san. She replied while Naruto groaned. Figures. Why doesn't she just marry the guy, for crying out loud, instead of sneaking out of the compound when we're gone? He asked. Kushina has been seeing Arashi the past 4 years. Naruto was shocked that his mother was dating again, but she did like the man and decided to give him a chance, but he did threaten the Sotaicho of the Anbu that if he broke her heart he'd break all 4 of his limbs, castrate him with a heated up kunai, and throw him into the volcanic mouth of Mt. Fuji, causing the man to twitch at the threat. Tsuki snickers at this and wraps an arm around Ryu's. Well, at least they're not at the compound doing that, she emphasized while the blonde's eye twitches and he shudders at the thought of his mother doing that with Arashi. After finishing their morning run, eating breakfast at a restaurant, and going home to change, Naruto, Ryu, and Tsuki were summoned to the Dragon Tower by the Rukage. Dragon Tower . Naruto, Ryu, and Tsuki were now in the tower where Kushina was glaring at the piles of paperwork she had and had a tick mark on her head. I swear if that woman comes in here with more paperwork, I'm gonna pull a Kyuubi. She roared in her mind while a chibi form of her burned the mountain of paperwork with a fire jutsu and then did a victory sign with her hands while grinning like a Cheshire cat. The 3 dragon nin's sweat dropped at their cage's expression, as did the Anbu hidden in the shadows. Naruto coughed, getting his mother's attention, and he speaks up. You wanted to see us, Rukage-sama? Naruto asked and she nodded. Yes. I got your report from the Kage Bunshin shadow clone you sent yesterday, and I want to congratulate you all for dealing with the Yakuza crime lords and reducing their activities in Kaminari no Kuni. Kushina stated. The Lightning Daimyo thanking you all for dealing with them and is sending the bounties on their heads to your accounts. With a small smile appeared on her face while they nod. Now, I know you just got back from the 6-month mission, but you and Team Tenchi have been requested for a joint mission from the daimyo of Nami no Kuni, Land of Wave. She stated while Naruto blinks at this. What is the mission, Rukage-sama? Naruto asked. Apparently the country's economy and trade has been dwindling for the last 3 years. As you know, Nami no Kuni is a port country and is very vital to the other villages for trading both imports and exports to other countries. A man by the name of Gato is the one responsible for this. She explained, getting wide eyes from them. Gato. The man who owns Gato's shipping company. What does he have to do with this? Tsuki asked about that man and his company. Kushina pulls out a file and places it on her desk. She opens it, revealing the picture of a short man wearing a black suit. While Gato does own a shipping company that deals with imports and exports, he is in no shape or form a good businessman. She states. According to our spy network, Gato also works in the criminal underworld and is responsible for transporting illegal items like drugs, weapons, and even slaves. He has worked with the Yakuza in sending them their items, and not get caught. He's also responsible for the murders of a lot of important people in Wave and also known for selling women and young girls to whore houses or his personal brothel. She replied as she said those words with venom and was twitching. Suki's brow twitched as did Naruto's and Ryu's. I want you and Team Tenchi to head to Nami no Kuni and find his hideout. Find as much evidence as you can on him, get access to his bank accounts, and when you get the chance, but be careful. He also hires bandits and Missen Nin to do his dirty work, and I'm positive he'll hire the Black Spider clan. She said, getting nods from them as they started to leave. Now if only I knew how to get rid of all this damned paperwork. I have a lunch date, damn it. She said while anime tears fell from her face and the sweat drops on the hidden ANBU's faces grew bigger. Naruto's head popped out the door and I smiled. Have you considered using Kage Bunshin, Ka-san? Arrow Sennin stated that the knowledge they gain after being disappeared is sent to the user. He said and disappears. Kushina's eyes were the size of dinner plate and her jaw was on the ground. So that's how Minato got all that paperwork done. Minato, you blonde jerk, if I find a jutsu that brings the dead back to life, I'll kick your. She yelled furiously as her eyes glowed red and streams of fire shoot out of her nostrils and mouth, scaring her Anbu who were praying to Kami that she doesn't take it out on them. Naruto and Tasuki heard this and snickered at how their Ka-san reacted. Pops better hope she doesn't find a bring back the dead jutsu or he is so screwed. Naruto stated. While in heaven, Minato feel a shiver go up his spine, wondering who it was he was fearing right now. Naruto, Ryu, and Tasuki were walking towards the entrance to the Hayabusa village. When they got there, they saw Team Tenchi, Ayane, Kasumi, and Momiji. Ayane was wearing a purple and silver whole-body jumpsuit with flower decorations along with several pieces of armor and a black garb over her head. Strapped to her sides were her Fuma Kodachi. Kasumi wore a blue and white kunoichi outfit with a wakizashi with a golden tassel strapped behind her back called Hikari no Hanane, the flower root of the light. She also had long copper hair and brown eyes. Momiji wore a red and white shrine maiden battle outfit with black ninja boots and strapped to her back was a naginata called Tenryu, Heavenly Dragon. Naruto sees the three and a grin was on his masked face. Hey Tenshis, he called out. The three girls look at him, and made Momiji and Kasumi had blushes on their face seeing him here, while Ayane smiled. So, my Oni-san and Momiji still have a thing for Naruto-kun. I wonder how they will react when he tells them that he can have more than one wife, due to the clan laws. I'm positive they won't mind since Naruto-kun treats us all like equals. She thought. And hopefully if he'll find her of what he's looking for in. Hey, so are you guys ready for the mission to Nami no Kuni? Momiji asked for prepared and they all nod. Naruto bites his thumb and performs a few seals and slams his palm into the ground. Kuchiyoshi no Jutsu, summoning. He called and in a puff of smoke, two horse-sized dragons appear. The first one was bronze-colored and had reddish-brown eyes. The second one was forest green-colored with yellow slitted eyes. Hey Kaiser, Senryu, can take us to Nami no Kuni? He asked and the two dragons nod and puffs of smoke escape from their nose. Of course, Naruto-san. Hop on, Kaiser said as he and his brother lowered their bodies. Naruto, Kasumi, and Ayane hopped on Kaiser's back while Ryu, Tasuki, and Momiji hopped on Senryu's back. Hold on tight, Senryu said when he spread his wings as does his brother. Kasumi wrapped her arms around Naruto's waist and blushed when she pressed her body against his back and Momiji wrapped her arms around Kasumi's. The dragons then shot up into the sky, and the squeals of Kasumi, Ayane, Momiji, and Tasuki were heard as the dragons soared into the sky. While the dragons were soaring in the sky, Kasumi and Momiji were thinking about Naruto. He was cute, funny, and treated everyone equal unlike some who come from powerful clans. Most boys his age were perverts to girls like them, but Naruto on the other hand, wasn't. While he would tease them on certain occasions, he doesn't take it far. How are you two doing back there? Naruto asked as he looks over his shoulder behind at the Tenchi sisters. Fine. They both replied at the same time. He then smiles at them and turns back around not noticing the blush on Kasumi's face, but Ayane did and smirks. Meanwhile Ryu looks down to see an island with what looked like a bridge being fixed. Also, it's unfinished. That must be Nami no Kuni, Wave Country. Naruto. We're above our objective. He yells out. Naruto hears him and nods. Alright Kaiser. I need you and your brother to land on that island. Naruto orders and the dragon nods. Kaiser heads downward and his brother follows. As they pass the clouds, they see an island that's mostly forest. The dragons land in a clearing and the two team jump off their backs. Thanks you too, and give my regards to Oyabun, boss. Naruto appreciated getting a nod from the dragons and they disappear in a puff of smoke. They then pulled scrolls from the seals on their arms and in a puff of smoke, several duffel bags appeared and they contained their camping supplies. After setting up the camp and setting traps around the area, Naruto holds his arm out and on it was a seal. He once again bites his thumb and presses down on it. The seal glows and in a puff of smoke a container appears. He opens it and inside were 6 radios with comm links connected to them. Alright guys, here are the radios and comm links. He stated as he pulls one out and attaches it to the left side of his belt and places the comm link earpiece on his ear. His team and also Team Tenchi got theirs. Okay. This is what we'll do. Team Tenchi, you all are heading to the closest town you can find and scout the area, and see if you can get info on Gato's location. As Team Akuma, we'll be setting up traps and any missing nin, black spider nin, or bandits we find in the forest. Naruto said in an authority tone, getting nods from them as they got serious. We'll be scouting and looking for info for at least 3 hours, then we'll head back here and set up camp. Also Team Tenchi, if you can henge into civilians to gain info and steer clear of any shady characters. It's possible that they're Gato's spies, but if you see one alone, capture and interrogate him. Naruto stated and they nod. Alright, we have our objectives. Now move out. Naruto exclaimed and the 6 vanish from the scene. Konohagakure ===. Hiruzen Sarutobi was not enjoying his day right now in this village. After the event in Tetsu no Kuni, Konoha's economy was not in the best of shape for the last 3 years, due to the fact that they had to give half of the village's worth of money to the Hayabusa village and Kushina's clan, not to mention the 20 high-ranking missions and jutsus for retribution. The council was very upset about it -1 as well, and plus a screeching purple hair banshee furious for having their fortune low, and when the clan heads want to ask about it. Hiruzen told them to thank Danzo and his drones for their actions against the Rukage. As the War Hawk wasn't seen at the meetings for a while, which Sarutobi was thankful for. And include the same blonde woman was secretly pleased and admitted about it of how her friend did. That, she was disappointed at the so-called professor, and also as a friend of Minato besides her husband. She did honored her best friend's wish. Since then, the Konoha was now the shadow of its former self. Just as the orders received from Kushina requested to the fire daimyo had publicly executed most the few civilians that abused, despise and assault the true heir of the most powerful clan in the Shinobi village, that interfered the foreign ninja clan affairs. And rest of the shinobis were devoted from Jonin or Chunin into Genin, or Eternal Genin eternally. Leaving few remains for honor the late Yondaimi's wish. Also few of the Anbu had disregard the fourth wish. By sending all of them to Ibiki to interrogate after the suspended, or devoted, or execute. It was the arrogant villagers of Konoha to blame for they didn't realize the resemblance, not Naruto did the mess he made from them, for all the rest of shinobi forces is reduced, for disregard the late fourth Hokage's wish that cripples the village. They were extremely low on cash as the amount of money they had to hand over to Hayabusa was extremely large for a village. Without the Konoha's funds they earned to rebuild the village from the jobs and missions, they're liquidated and collapse, soon. It will take years to earn it after taking D ranks for capturing a certain cat, will earn some money and more fresh out genins, and C rank missions for escorts and errands. But Konoha had less highest ranks for now, only 1B and or a rank they received each a 2-week or 14 days from the fire daimyo for salary. So, he gave Konoha a 15.5% from the salary. And even the matron from the orphanage is fired from her job and executed in public, replaced by a same certain blonde women and husband that take over, and had her daughter to do the rest. Also, they had newborn son, brother to raised. I admired the rarest story of Narusaku, Land of Ice. A certain pink hair will had a brother. I'll had this story will had that she will had a sibling. After the foolish mistakes they made, the villagers were completely downfall for their ignorance and fallibility. After all, the village won't be the same with peaceful. Without their Jinchuriki and their new allies to formed. The village of Konoha will be the easy target of other hidden villages like Iwa. Their military power and village economic is weakened. Lastly, each year, October 10th after the retribution, they tried to form a festival after the fire daimyo gave Konoha's half of the village's worth of currencies to the Hayabusa village and Uzunami clan, and as well as the jutsu and mission scrolls the Rukage wanted for retribution. Also turns out the fire daimyo decline and terminate the festival that held in Konoha that many travelers that came by were disregard. Shortened for Uzumaki and Namikaze clan, inspired the idea by Path of Broken Fox, by Killjoy the Demonic Phantom, and Triforce Guardian. So it's completely low of funds for requirements. Now the so-called Kyubi festival is over, gone, forever, permanently. So they cannot enjoy themselves because they disregard the late Yondaime Hokage's wish. It's because of that, they shouldn't listened. But nothing can't go back to way it was. Now standing before him was Team 7 and 8 with the Jonin senseis being with Kakashi Hatake and Kurenai Yuhi along with their students. After years passed that they earned their currency with D or C rank mission, only 5 or less higher rank mission that have after Kushina had Konoha retributed. With Team 7, it was Sasuke Uchiha, Sakura Haruno, and Sai. Led by Kakashi. And Team 8, Tracker Team, it was Shino Aburame, Kiba Inuzuka, and Hinata Hyuga. Led by Kurenai. They were currently standing before their leader who spoke up. Okay. Since both Team 7 and Team 8 have completed the exact amount of missions, you'll be doing a joint C-ranked mission. He announced and the Jonin sensei's eyes widen. Now don't worry, it's only an escorting mission. You'll be escorting Tazuna, the bridge builder of Nami no Kuni. He answered. Sasuke however was scowling because he won't be able to fight any strong ninja. Great. We have to spend our time with the king of pricks. Kiba mumbles and gets bopped on the head by Kurenai. Back in the forests of Nami no Kuni . The sounds of screaming and metal clashing were heard. Naruto and Team Akuma had ambushed a bandit camp that was near the shorelines. The body of a dead bandit hit the ground with his eyes rolled into his sockets and had 2 shuriken embedded into his skull. Blood seeped out of his mouth and into the sand. Ryu had sidestepped from being stabbed in the torso by a bandit's spear. He sweep kicks the man off his feet and then grabbed the spear and stabs it into his heart, ing the bandit instantly. Naruto was cutting down bandits left and right. One tried to get him in his blind spot but Naruto substituted himself with another bandit who was gutted with a broadsword. Naruto then vivisected the man in half and blood sprayed everywhere. Tsuki had one in a stranglehold and snapped his neck. She then shoves him away and stabs a charging bandit in the kidneys with her kodachi. After that she performs a few hand seals. Kaden. Karyu Enden. Fire release. Fire dragon flame bullet, she exclaimed and shoots flames out of her mouth and 5 bandits were engulfed in flames and watched as they screamed out in pain and agony. Naruto brought his right arm back with his index and ring finger out and yelled. Futon. K's no Yaba. Wind release. Wind blade. As he does a slashing motion with arm. An invisible blade of wind strikes down the last group of bandits and they are cut down into piles of limbs. Naruto looks around at the sight and grunts. This is the 4th camp we hit. he muttered, and Ryu nods as he wipes the blood off his blade with a flick of his wrist. At least this one didn't have any women in cages. Tasuki castrated and slaughtered the poor fools. Ryu commented as he saw Tasuki swipe the blood off her kodachis. Okay. Let's reduce this camp to ashes. I'm pretty sure they do root checks on the camps. Naruto said, and they nod. The three perform Kaden Jutsu and incinerate everything. After that, he summoned Shinku, performed a water jutsu, and sprayed the ashes off the sand. They then leap away back in the forest, after the water dragon returned to the dragon summoning world. With Team Tenchi Kasumi, Ayane, and Momiji had found a town and were watching from the rooftops. The place was in simple terms a dump. The stores barely had any food, people were in rags sleeping in alleys and in cardboard boxes, and the children looked malnourished. Kasumi frowned at the sight she witnessed before her eyes. This is terrible. What kind of person would do this to a country? She asked. Only a scum, like Gato. I see mostly of the children, but hardly any women or teenage girls. That bastard is probably selling them to brothels or as his personal slaves. What a sick fool. Ayane answered, and Momiji clenches her fists. If we capture this man alive, I'm gonna cut off his beads with a heated kunai and then shove them in a place where the sun doesn't shine. Momiji states, and they nod on agreement. Ayane then looks around and sees a man wearing a clean brown suit entering a building and narrows her eyes. I think I found our spy, she said, getting their attention. Where? Ayane. Kasumi asks, and she points to a bar. He just entered that bar. He was wearing a brown suit that was clean. Now tell me, what kind of person wears a suit like that in a town full of poor people? It's possible he's a spy, she explained, and the two look at the bar he entered. So what should we do? Naruto said that if we see one, alone, we should capture him. Momiji says, and Ayane had think about it. I could go in disguised as a yakuza. Ayane suggests, and Kasumi looks at her and nods. Okay, but let's wait until the sun sets. She replies. 3 hours later. As the man in the brown suit walked out of the bar, looking around, walking through the dirty streets until he hears a fist. Hey you, in the suit. A masculine voice called out. The man turned around to see a man in a light purple suit with silver hair and black eyes. Who are you? He asked. My name's Mayuri Kusagi. I'm a yakuza. Mayuri. Greet with proclaimed, and the man in the brown suit raised an eyebrow. And, he asked. I used to work for Kogira Sosuke, a crime boss for the group in Kaminari no Kuni. Mayuri answered, and got the man's interest. Really? I heard he was by a group of ninja. He states, and he nods. Yes, he did, and I have a new boss that's interested in your boss's operation in this country. Mayuri said, and the man raised an eyebrow. Really? And how exactly did your boss come across this information? He asks, and Mayuri smirks. My boss had eyes and ears everywhere. He answer before asking. How about we discuss this in a more secluded place? What is your name, by the way? It's Hamada Toshi. Hamada answered. Well then, Hamada Toshi, follow me. Mayuri said, insisted, and they walk away and enter into an empty building. The door closes and Hamada raised and at Mayuri, who just stood in front of him smirking. Well, what is it you wanted to discuss? He asked. Kasumi appears behind him, and before the man could react, she covered his mouth and nose with a handkerchief that was coated with sedative. Hamada's eyes widen and struggles for a while, but then he blacks out and collapses. Well, that was easy. Mayuri said in a feminine voice and dispersed in a puff of smoke, revealing a smirking Ayane. Momiji appears out of the shadows also, while Kasumi starts to tie the guy's arms and legs with ninja wire. Good work, Ayane, Kasumi said to her sister for her acted. Thanks. Have you two ran into any of Gato's henchmen? She asked. I took care some of them, but there were no black spider nin. Momiji stated. Gato's probably using them as security guards. Kasumi answered. Ayane pulls an Anbu mask on as does Kasumi and Momiji. 30 minutes later =. Hamada wakes up and sees himself that his arms and legs tied up. His eyes widen in fear. Oh shit, he says to himself, but then freaks out when three kunoichi wearing animal mask appear in front of him. Who are you? He asked shaken. That's none of your concern. Kasumi replied before asking. You're gonna give us some info on your boss Gato or else? Or else what? Hamada asks trying to act brave, but then Ayane pulls out a kunai. Or else, we'll cut those beads of yours and then heal them with our medic jutsu and repeat the process. She said with a menacing voice and aims the sharp end at his crotch. Hamada pales and then speaks up. Okay, I'll talk. I swear I won't lie to you about the info I'm giving you. He replied, not wanting to go through that. For your sake, you better not lie to us. Momiji said and stabs her naginata in the ground, making the man whimper. With Team Akuma . Naruto, Tasuki, and Ryu were leaping through the trees until Naruto stopped, as did his teammates. What is it, Naruto? Ryu asked, wondering. Naruto motioned them to leap into the higher parts of the trees and they did. When they landed on the tallest branch, Naruto spoke up. The cage bunshin I sent out earlier spotted some Konoha nin with the bridge builder. He answered and their eyes widen. How many? Tasuki asked about them. 8 of them, 2 of them are Jonin and the other 6 are Genin. They must be the senseis of the Genin squads. One of them happens to be Sharingan Kakashi and Genjutsu Mistress Kurenai. Naruto answered and their eyes widen even more. Until Naruto sighed, letting his teammates wondered. What's wrong? Tasuki wondered with Tasuki was curious about her brother's behavior. According to my clone's info, she's there. That made more wider from their eyes. You mean, Ryu is about realized, getting a nod from the blonde. He and Tasuki knew he had his first friend. So, what should we do? Tasuki asked. I mean, you are going to see her if something happens to her. We'll stand clear of them for now. And the second yes, I will see if she's there. Naruto says. Ryu places his hand on his comm link and speaks up. Naruto, Team Tenchi has captured one of Gato's spies and are getting intel on the man's security and location. Apparently the man is after the bridge builder and has sent some missing nin from Kiri to deal with him. He informed. Any idea who they are? Naruto asked. The demon brothers and demon of the mist Zabuza Momochi. Ryu answered. Suki's eyes widen at the name of the demon of the mist. Damn. An A-class missin nin. This just complicates our mission. He's one of the 7 swordsmen of the mist. She states and Naruto nods. Okay. This is what we'll do. We'll keep an eye on the Konoha nin and the bridge builder. If they get into trouble, we'll assist them. Ryu, tell Ayane that once they're done getting info off the man, wipe his memory and head back to the camp to rest. Naruto said determined. Ryu nods and informs them to wipe the man's memories and head back to the camp and rest. After that, Team Akuma saw the group of Konoha nin walking through a path and saw a puddle which they passed by. So, they have an Inuzuka, an Aburame, and a Hyuga. They're probably a tracker squad. Then there's the other team. An Uchiha and 2 who are unknowns. Ryu comment. Before he noticed one of them felt a strong chakra signature conceal her. Something strange about this one. Tasuki scoffs when they passed by the puddle and wondered. Are you kidding me? Didn't they notice that genjutsu? For Kami's sakes, what do they teach the ninja in their village? Before she noticed one of them too. As for this girl, is she the one Nisan is talking about? Getting a nod from Ryu. That was when the demon brothers leapt out of the puddle and wrapped their chains around a shocked Kakashi and Kurenai. With a tug of their gauntlets, they ripped the Jonins apart and went after the genin and bridge builder. Sai managed to stop their pursuit by stopping their chains with a tanto, and separated it from their gauntlets. Gezo charged at the bridge builder and Sakura was trembling as he swung his poisoned claw at her. Sasuke decided to show off and tried to strike the nin with a roundhouse kick, but the missing nin blocked the kick and swatted the boy aside like a fly. Sakura could trying to do to defend herself. She tried to fight back. Time to die, little girl. Gezo says as he continues to charge at her. Sai frowns and then appears in front of Sakura to block the claw with his tanto. Kami, you are useless, flat chest. Sai stated as he kicked the nin in the chest, making him skid back a couple of feet. Letting herself a shame. Suga. Piercing fang Kiba cries out and Gezo's eyes widen when he sees a spinning cyclone heading for him. He sidesteps the attack only to cry out in pain when Hinata strikes him in the back with a Juken strike and collapses. Brother. Why you little? Maizu growls out and gets ready to charge at her only to feel his body getting weak. Why do I feel so weak? He wondered but then looks at his arms and sees black beetles crawling all over him. Shino appears behind him and backhands the ninja in the temple, knocking him out. You shouldn't never take your eyes off your opponent, no matter how weak they appear. Shino states and tilts his sunglasses up. That was when Kakashi and Kurenai appeared. Excellent work team. You managed to knock them out without our assistance. And you, Sasuke, you shouldn't have tried to show off. Kakashi states, as the Uchiha stood up shaking the cobwebs out of his head. Don't berate me, berate my useless teammate. He mumbles and Sakura flinches at being called useless. She mentally growled. Kakashi frowns at his response. She actually tried to defend the bridge builder, and if it wasn't for Sai, they'd both be dead. Until he'll face Tazuna with a nervous expression. Anyways, Tazuna care to explain why these missing nin came after you? He asked in a voice that meant he was serious and the man gulped. Back in the trees . Naruto, Tasuki, and Ryu saw the short battle. Naruto was frown about that spoiled Uchiha scold his teammate. Ryu had a same boat about the Uchiha for being a show-off, and Tasuki was disappointed. Well, at least one team seems competent. The Uchiha was pathetic. Showing off like that, what a joke. He's probably the runt of his family. Ryu comment and Tasuki agreed with a nod. Yes, that was very pathetic. No wonder the entire clan was. They were probably weak, and also. She said. Naruto nodded and stated looking at one of the genins, stated. Yes. And includes her. She had tried to fight back, but something felt strange within her, but she is keeping a secret from her team. I sense a surpassed seal that prevents her without suspicious about her true self as well. Ryu nod about Naruto's statement. Yup. She did keep secrets. But more importantly, looks like the three dragon nin vanished. As the two squads were leaving, Kakashi was looking over at the tree. Kurenai seeing this and asked, what is it, Kakashi? We're being watched the whole time. He stated and her eyes widen. Do you think they were ninja working for Gato? She asked. I doubt it. If they wanted to attack, they would done it by now, anded Tazuna. He replied. So what should we do? Kurenai asked. Nothing, for now. They don't seem to be interested in us, so they're not a threat at the moment. Kakashi stated and she nods. So after that, they went to join up with their squads. The Leaf Ninjas were now riding a boat to cross the ocean to get to Wave Country. Until one of the team within her thoughts. I wonder how is he? It's been 8 years we haven't seen each other for some time. Alright, now the glove is off, and sooner or later. I will not give up from myself, and then I will find him soon. When they got closer to the shore of Wave, they saw the biggest bridge that they had ever seen. Okay, this is as far as I am going to take you. I already risked more than I had to, now get off. The boat driver said with fear in his voice. The group got off the boat and began to walk on the road heading to the client's house. As they walked, the mist seemed to get denser and denser. Sasuke felt something and to try to act cool threw a shuriken into the bush, getting the group into alert. They slowly walked towards the bush to find a white snow rabbit. Wait a minute, why is that rabbit's skin so white when it's spring? The skin of rabbits are always brown in the spring, not white. Sakura asked as they noticed the rabbit's snow-white skin and read about them in one of her books. The group looked at Sakura after looking at the rabbit and had the same thing going through their minds. When did Sakura was smart and stay sharp? Unlike she was a fangirl before her change of behavior. Kakashi thought, wondering. All will find out soon enough, or is it Mebuki-san is trying to say? So he decided to play along. Or do his shinobi part. Sakura's right. That's because the enemy was keeping it in a cage to use it for body switching. Which means the enemy is already here. Everyone, be on your guard. Kakashi added to Sakura's observation. Better look underneath on Sakura, after we. Suddenly they heard a whistling sound. Everyone get down. Kakashi yelled, as a giant sword came flying at them and almost took their heads off when they ducked. The sword was sent into a tree where a man stood on the hilt of it. Well, look at who we have here, the copycat ninja and the Ice Queen of Konoha. No wonder my men were defeated. The man said. Zabuza Momochi, the demon of the bloody mist. To think someone of your reputation is working for scum like Gato. Kakashi said as he got into his battle stance. Zabuza looks at him and shrugs, then said. Well, it pays and that's all that matters. Now I will give you a chance. Give me the old man and I will let you all leave here alive. You know, we can't do that. Kurenai said. Very well. I guess you all will die here today. Zabuza says as he pulls his Zanbeitu out of the tree and lands in the middle of the lake and performs a few hand seals. Ninpo. Kurigakur no Jutsu, ninja arts, silent mist technique. Zabuza said, and then the whole field was engulfed in a very thick mist. The genin guard Tazuna while Kakashi reveals his Sharingan and Kurenai starts to perform some hand seals. What's going on? This mist is so thick. Sakura said. This isn't good at all. This technique is specialized for silencing, which Zabuza was an expert of. You won't even know you're dead until you are. You guys better be careful. Kakashi explains, alerting them of a possible attack. The mist is getting thicker. Kiba said as he noticed it getting thicker. 8 choices. Zabuza started to say. Where is he? Sasuke asked. Did you know that there are 8 vital spots in the human body that if struck could spell instant death? Liver, lungs, spine, clavicle vein, neck, brain, kidneys, heart. Tell me, little genin, which one of these spots do you want me to strike in order to you? Zabuza asked using his voice projection jutsu and scaring the genin. Not far from their location was Team Akuma, who was watching the battle from the trees. This should be interesting. Former Anbu versus former Anbu. They both have experience in their fields, but Zabuza apparently has the advantage when it comes to stealth. Naruto comment and Ryu looks at him. How so? Naruto. Ryu asked. Zabuza Momochi was a member of the assassination squad in Kiri's Anbu force. Naruto explained. He's a master of the silent jutsu. From what my mother told me, he's mastered it to the point to where all he needs to do is hear an irregular heartbeat or a twitch of your finger and you're dead. To pull something like that off takes a lot of skill. Not to mention he has high levels of water jutsu in his arsenal. That caused Ryu's eye widen in amazement. That is incredible. He could probably give some of the dragon nin a run for their money. Too bad he's a missin' nin. He'd make a good addition to our village. Ryu states. That was when they saw Zabuza kick Kakashi into the lake and the copy nin gets trapped in a Suiro no Jutsu, water prison technique. Kurenai ended up getting struck in the shoulder by his blade and was kneeling down clutching her bleeding shoulder in pain. Well, that was easy. I expected more from you, Kakashi and Kurenai. I guess you're nothing more than tree huggers. Once I the Genjutsu mistress, you brats are next. He comment and creates a dozen water clone. Run. Get Kurenai and the bridge builder out of here. Kakashi yelled out, but the six were frozen in fear. 4 water clones appear on every side of her with Kubikiri Hako raised and ready to cut her down. Sensei. Hinata cried out as she saw the blades come down at her in slow motion. Kurenai closes her eyes, waiting for her death. That was when a flash of silver was seen cutting down the clones and they stood still for a while. They then dispersed into water, shocking Zabuza. What the hell? Who did that? He yells out. I did, Demon of the Mist, said a calm yet dark voice. That was when a 14-year-old male with wild blonde spiky hair wearing a deep blue and silver bodysuit with a face mask, arm guards and fingerless gloves appeared in front of Kurenai with Rukin drawn. Zabuza narrows his eyes at the newcomer. And who the hell are you, brat? He demanded while releasing ki on Naruto, who just shrugs it off. Me. I'm your executioner, Naruto proclaimed. As Naruto vanishes and appears beside a shocked Zabuza and a surprised Kakashi. Zabuza is suddenly hit in the side of the head by a roundhouse kick courtesy of Naruto and is sent flying away from the blonde. This right here forces the man to free Kakashi from the water prison. Kakashi was drenched in water and gasping for air. Zabuza skids in the water and glares at the blonde teenager. I don't know who you are, brat. But you're in the way of my job. I suggest you leave before I add your death to my list. He threatens, but Naruto scoffs. You don't scare me, Demon of the Mist. I have fought anded ninjas that would make you look like a child, and as for being a demon. Ha! Don't make me laugh. I have had encounters with the real thing and you, my friend, aren't a demon. You are merely a human with the title of one. He said determined, and Zabuza had a dark grin on his face. You have guts, kid. Too bad I have to spill them. Zabuza pulled his Zanbeitu out on his back. Naruto sheathes his blade and taps a seal on his gauntlet. It glows in a puff of smoke. A blade that seemed to be the same size as Zabuza's Kubikiri Hako, only this one was bronze-colored. The blade was wicked looking, having razor-sharp carved edges on each side. The cross guard was curved also, and it had a long hilt that is used for a two-handed grip, and on the end of it was a red gem on the pommel. Naruto grabs the hilt and twirls it in his hand. Everyone's eyes, minus one with amazed, bulge out of their heads when they see this. How the hell does he do that? That sword must weigh over 100 pounds. Kiba yells out. Hinata runs towards her injured sensei and pulls out a small med kit with Sakura accompany her. Before look at Naruto that she notice a dragon symbol on his back. That must be Sensei. Are you alright? She asked, and Kurenai looks at her student and Sakura and nods, but winces agony. Here, let me patch that injury, she said as she pulls out some healing cream and bandages. Then she and Sakura did learn first aid. Zabuza had a look of shock on his face when he was a kid, no older than 14, hoist a blade that heavy without even struggling. Like it. It's called Dabalaharo, and that kid was correct. This sword weighs over 100 pounds. But it is powerful enough to cut down trees and boulders like they were paper. In the hands of a master swordsman, however, it can create shockwaves that can cut half a city block. He explained. Zabuza looks at the blade and snorts. I'll admit, that's pretty impressive that you can lift a blade that heavy, but I doubt you can use it correctly. He comment. To be honest with you, Momochi, I don't really like using Zanbatus because they lack speed and leave me open for my enemy to attack, unless I'm fighting a large enemy. I prefer my blades over this weapon. He referred. Hey. Well, at least you admit that a blade of that size isn't suited for you. He said and hoists his blade over his shoulder. You misunderstood me. I said I didn't like using it. In my village, we are taught to use every single form of weapon from a Senbon to a Zanbeitu. That way our options aren't limited to a single weapon. Naruto states, and Zabuza lifts an eyebrow. And what village do you hail from, kid? He asked curiously. The only village that isn't a part of the elemental nations. The Hayabusa village. Naruto answered. Zabuza's eyes widen in surprise. The Hayabusa village. So you're a dragon nin? He asked, shocked about his shinobi is from the non-elemental village. Yes, I am. Naruto answered. As he then charges at the shocked man. Zabuza managed to get out of his shocked state long enough to block the attack. He lets out a grunt as the two Zanbeitu grind against each other. Kakashi manages to get back on land and helps Kurenai up after Hinata and Sakura finishes treating her wound and the Rosette help her up before helping Kakashi. They then head back to the others and watched as Naruto engages with Zabuza in a sword fight. Anyo, Kurenai-sensei. What is a dragon nin? The Hyuga heiress asked. While Sakura watched the fight. Kurenai answer with explained. The dragon nin are the ninja who hailed from the Hayabusa village, the oldest non-elemental village that isn't a part of our country by one of them. It's a village from the west. The dragon nin are the shinobi of that village, and unlike each of the hidden village, that they don't have a ninja academy. That getting the shocking looks from everyone. Minus Sakura while watching the fight with awed. For she overheard. No way. Their village doesn't have a academy. Then how do they become shinobi? Kiba asked that he sounded surprised. With Kakashi joined in and explained from Kiba's question. They are trained by their family members at a young age, and then they do simulations to see what they excel at and pair them up with other ninja. From what the boy said, they're trained in every single art of the ninja, even ones they don't major in. That is how they are able to succeed on missions. Dragon nin are known to be ruthless and show no mercy to their enemies. That made the genin had shocked looks on their faces. -1 with slight nod understand about it. Sasuke was growling at the fact that someone on his age can be this strong. Because of his arrogance and selfish. He was so-called elite. He was always strong, not a foreign shinobi. Pray to Kami, you will never face a dragon nin on the opposite side because if you do, you're dead. Even the genin of that village are known to be deadly to even chunin level nin. Kakashi said since he has on occasions seen how dragon nin fight and they are not to be trifled with. Back at the fight Zabuza had to duck from an overhead slash from Debliro. Naruto unleashes a kick towards his head and it makes contact with Zabuza's skull and sends him skidding back. He looks up at Naruto and charges at the blonde dragon. Their blades clash once again and they perform a series of slashes, stabs, and blocks. Zabuza performs a sword thrust at Naruto's chest. As the blonde leaps over the attack and lands on the other side. He then charges at Zabuza and attempts to stab him through the back, but the man blocks it with the flat end of his sword and is pushed back a little. Naruto then turns his blade upwards and pushed up using his strength. This forces Zabuza's guard to break and he is left open to an attack. Naruto performs a diagonal slash and vivisects Zabuza in half. Zabuza, however, dispersed into water. Impressive. He substituted himself with a water clone. I guess the swordsmen of the mist are competent after all. Naruto admitted. Zabuza rises from the water performing a series of hand seals and stops at the bird hand seal. Suryuden no Jutsu. Water release. Water dragon bullet, Zabuza cries out and a dragon made of water rises slowly out of the water roaring. Naruto performs a series of one-hand seals and stops at the tiger seal. Sweden. Sujinheki. Water release. Water formation wall, he muttered, and a large wall of water appears in front of him. The dragon collides with the wall of water, but it soon overpowers the wall and breaks through it. Zabuza had a look of glee in his face as he saw his technique overpowered by the dragon nin. Not so great after all, are ya, brat? He asks as he sees no sign of the blonde boy. He was about to gloat more, but that was when a Naruto leapt out of the water behind the man. Zabuza's eyes widen in shock and he slowly turned around only to have 3 more Naruto appear on all 4 sides of the man performing hand seals. Kaden. Karyu Enden. Fire release. Fire dragon flame bullet. Sweden. Sweryuden. Raiden. Reunited. Lightning release. Lightning dragon bullet. Futon. Kaiseryuden. Wind release. Wind dragon bullet. All 4 Narutos unleashed each elemental dragon and said dragon's head straight for a wide-eyed Zabuza. The 4 attacks collide and the combination of the elements causes an explosion that sends a large shockwave across the water and the land, causing everyone to cover their eyes. Damn it, Naruto ni. Did you have to put that much power into those attacks? Tsuki muttered herself with complaint a little. Zabuza is seen flying out of the explosion and onto land, crashing through a few trees and skids through the ground until he hits another 3. The demon of the mist was battered, bruised, and had cuts and burns all over most of his body. That was when a volley of kunai strikes the man in several places and he cries out in pain. Naruto appears in front of the injured man with Ruken drawn. Damn, to think I'm being done in by a kid. He mumbles and Naruto raises his blade and prepares to bring it down on the man, until Zabuza's body jerks and he collapses onto the ground and remains motionless. His neck was struck by 2 Senbon needles. Naruto jumps back and looks around with his sword ready and seeing 2 people wearing hunter nin outfit and both of appeared to be male or female each of them. It had raven black hair that was tied into a bun and the other is white hair, a wolf oni mask, gray vest, white shirt, gray pants, black fingerless gloves, and sandals standing in the tree branch. Hunter nin. Naruto muttered they shunshin and appear next to the dead form of Zabuza. Thank you for weakening him, Dragon nin. We've been hunting him for some time. The raven hair said. Naruto narrows his eyes at the 2 and keeps a firm grip on his blade. Is that so? Then go on ahead, behead him and burn the body. He stated and they tense up. Unless of course, you 2 are not actual hunter nin, and you are playing the role of one to save him. Naruto states. That was when a barrage of white needles flew right for him and he leaps to the side. The Hinter Enin with the white hair threw another barrage of white needles from its fingers and Naruto once again leaps back to avoid them. Let's get out of here, the other 2 are coming. He suggested and the raven-haired girl nodded. They shunshin away with the body of Zabuza while Naruto sighs and sheathes his blade. Ryu and Tsuki appear beside Naruto and look around. They got away. Tsuki asked and Naruto nods. Damn. Oh well, with the injuries you gave him, he shouldn't be active for a while. Getting a nod from Ryu. Naruto turns his head to see the Konoha nin heading towards their direction. Before seeing someone laying his eyes at her. Wonder what they want? Ryu asked and Naruto shrugged. Don't know, don't care. They're not our problem. Let's head back to the camp. Naruto said before rolled his eyes side, but he'd at the same girl. I'll see you soon. The sun was setting and the 3 dragon nin appeared back in the camp. Ayane, Kasumi, and Momiji caught a boar and had it cooking over a fire on a pike and were sitting on a log when they appeared. Hey guys. Tsuki greet getting nods from the 3 girls. What took you guys so long? Kasumi asked about yesterday. We ran into some Konoha nin and Zabuza Momochi, the demon of the mist. Naruto answered. Seriously. The three kunoichi had wide eyes and shocked looks. What? You ran into the demon of the mist and Konoha nin? Momiji exclaimed. Actually, Naruto did, and saved the Jonin. The rest were genin. Ryu answered. Naruto nods in return, and that was when Ayane narrowed her eyes and gave him a look that said, explain or else. Naruto was smiling and rubbing the back of his head nervously. I only freed them and afterwards fought him for a while, but he underestimated me, which gave me an advantage. I came close toing him, but he was rescued by some fake hunter nin. He explained to her while she walked up to him and looked him right in the eye, and also, I did able to see her while we watched them. Really? Ayane frowned, since she knew about a certain girl he met her for being a first friend. Really? Naruto exclaimed, frightened. Ryu and Tasuki were snickering at how their teammate was shifting his feet in an uncomfortable manner. Ayane looked at him for a while, but then sighs and pulls down his face mask and kisses him on the lips while Naruto returns it. Kasumi and Momiji had depressed looks on their face and looked away for a while. And also the certain girl he told them. But why Ayane did not jealous or upset? It's okay, at least. But what did she mean? They're wondering of what Ayane is not jealous. After their little kissing session, Ayane smacked him on the back of the head, making him yelp out in pain. Ow, Ayane-chan, what was that for? Naruto cried while rubbing the back of his head. That was for being a baka. The next time you want to take on an A- rank Misen nin, make sure you have to call backup. She growled out, making her boyfriend sweat bullets. He then heard a whipping sound come from Ryu and turned his head to glare at his best friend while the Hayabusa was trying to look innocent. What? Ryu asked while Tasuki giggles and elbows him in the ribs. Anyways, did that guy you capture give you the location of Gato's base of operation? Ryu asked for the info from Team Tenchi. Kasumi shakes her head in response. No, but we're able to find out the locations of where he smuggles his imports. He said that Gato has a guy who's in charge of where they smuggle drugs, and females go and comes to do inspections of the bases near Wave on Wednesdays from 1:30 p.m. to 8:45 p.m. and reports to Gato how the transfers are going the next day at 9:30 a.m. This man wears a blue suit with a hat that has a white feather on it. The first base he goes to is the one near the northwestern side of the docks near Nami no Kuni. She explained. So our best bet is to head there and wait for this guy to appear at that time and follow him. He'll probably have Black Spider Nin guarding him since bandits would be out of the question. Tasuki states, getting nods from both of them. Yeah, but what about those ninja from Konoha? Are they gonna be a problem? Momiji asked Tasuki, and Ryu spoke up. From the way those genin fight, no. But Sharingan no Kakashi and Kurenai Yuahi, the Genjutsu mistress, could be a problem, especially since he has the Sharingan in his left eye. He stated, best thing to do is not use any jutsu that are from our village in his presence or the Uchiha, but I doubt he has it now. After the discussion, they go ahead and eat the boar. Ayane, Kasumi, and Momiji caught, and when night hit, they went to their tents. Ryu and Tasuki stayed in the first one, Kasumi and Momiji shared the second one, and Naruto and Ayane shared the last one. As the couple were holding each other and Ayane was resting her head on his chest while he had his arms wrapped around her waist. Hey, Naruto-kun, Ayane called, getting the blonde's attention. Yeah, Tenchi. He responds and tickles her sides, making her giggle until she slaps him playfully on the shoulder. Stop it. You know Kasumi and Momiji have feelings for you, right? Especially her. She asked her boyfriend, whose eyes widen a little. Really? But why are you telling me this? Naruto asked. Simple. I wanted to know if you're considering letting them be your future wives. And also her, if she'll join us. she replied, causing him to gawk. Why, you're serious? He asked with a shocked look on his face. Ayane smiles and nods while Naruto stares at her for a while before asking her why and asked seriously. Why would you ask me this, Ayane-chan? The violet-haired Kunoichi sighs and explained. Look, Naruto, I know you and Ryu-san have to go through the Clan Restoration Act in order to revive your clans. I know Kasumi-ni-chan and Momiji-chan have feelings for you and want to be with you as well. As the blonde dragon Nin listened. I want them to be happy, and if you are what makes them happy, then I want them to be with you as well. Ayane finished. I see. I'll talk to them about it, and if they agree, I'll go on a few dates with them before getting into a relationship with them. Before I'll met her, trained her, and date too, in one night. And I'll talk to Ka-san about this. How does that sound? Naruto replied with stated. Ayane nods her head and smiles at him. I think it is a great idea. The next day. The six of them got up early and packed up all their gear and afterwards entered the country via leaping through the rooftops stealthily, heading to the northwestern section of the village where the docks are located. The six of them land on the roof of a warehouse and Naruto stops them with a hand signal. They wait for about 45 minutes and see a boat stop near one of the docks, and walking out of it was a man in his mid-30s wearing a blue suit with a top hat that had a white feather on it, and flanking him we 4 black spider nin. That's him. And he's being flanked by 4 black spider nin. Ayane stated while Kasumi narrows her eyes. This seems odd. Only 4 spider nin are guarding him. She stated, seeing 4 spider nins guarding blue suit man. Naruto nods at her statement. Yeah, I agree. There's no way only 4 of them would be guarding him. The others are probably watching them from hidden areas around here. We'll proceed with caution. He instructed, getting nods from them as they watch the man head towards a warehouse. The 6 run and leap from the rooftops of the other buildings and watched the man in the blue suit make his rounds throughout the small bases. After watching him for the last 4 hours, he makes his way to a yacht with his guards. Momiji pulls out a scroll, opens it up, and in a puff of smoke, the Tenkyaku, Heavensong bow, and a quiver of arrows that were in a carrying pouch appears in her hands. She pulls out 4 arrows, places them on the bow string and pulls them back, aiming at the 4 spider ninja in highly accuracy with a keen sight. You guys know quiver is a container for arrows, bolts and darts. She waits for them to move a little further and fires the 4 arrows. At the docks, the 4 spider ninja pause when they hear the sound of projectiles heading towards them. That was when they were hit by arrows. One was hit between the eyes, ing him instantly. The second one was hit directly in the spine, paralyzing him from the waist down. The third one was struck by an arrow from behind which pierced his heart and ended him instantly. And the final one had the last arrow lodged into his jugular, making him choke and gargle on his own blood before collapsing. Toji, the man with the blue suit, saw his bodyguards collapse instantly and he looked around, fearing for his life. He then looked up to see a Kunoichi aiming an arrow at him. Oh shit, he muttered and tries to make a run for it, only for Momiji to fire the arrow. Toji suddenly cried out in pain when the arrow lodged itself into the back of his left leg and fell over, clutching his bleeding limb with one hand and crawling towards the ship with the other. That was when Naruto and Ryu appeared in front of the scared man with their arms crossed, and Kasumi, Ayane, and Tasuki appeared with face masks on. Who are you? Toji asked the mysterious assassins. Your executioners, if you don't tell us where your boss is hiding. Kasumi proclaimed, causing Toji's eyes to widen. Why you mean Gato? I can't tell you, heal me. He tries to explain, but that was when Naruto pulled out Rukin and aimed it at the man's throat. Gato is the last person you should be worrying about. I'm here, he's not, and I'm way worse than him. he stated, releasing ki on the man who was now soiling himself. Naruto would have continued but had to use his katana in order to deflect 3 kunai knives that were aimed at his head. Ryu's eyes widened and he leapt backwards when 2 incendiary shuriken hit the spot he was at earlier. The projectiles exploded into a flash of light, forcing Ayane, Kasumi, and Tasuki to cover up their eyes from being blinded, as did Naruto and Ryu. When the flash cleared, Ryu opened his eyes and saw a spider ninja appear and grabs the injured man. Ryu runs towards the ninja and the injured target, but then had to duck when an axe flew past his head and saw another spider ninja who was standing on the yacht with another axe in his hand. He smirks under his mask and throws the other one towards Suki's head. "Tasuki, move!" Ryu yelled out. The redhead turned around and her eyes widened when she saw an axe heading towards her and didn't have enough time to dodge it. That was when Momiji appeared in front of her and deflected it with her naginata. "Thanks, Momiji." Tasuki appreciated and Momiji nods back. "No problem, Tasuki." The spider ninja who threw the axes leapt and landed next to an injured Toji, picked him up and hoisted him on his shoulder. "What a disappointment. I expected more from you, Dragon Ninja," he said mockingly and looked at the spider ninja that appeared earlier. "You and the others deal with them," he said and vanishes instantly. A spider ninja wearing gauntlets on both arms appeared behind Ayane and Kasumi and was about to lop their heads off until Naruto appeared and kicked the ninja directly in the chest and sent him flying into a few crates. More spider ninja with katanas, gauntlets, and axes appeared surrounding the teenagers who pulled their favorite weapons out. "Looks like we're gonna be busy tonight, Mina, everyone." Naruto mumbles, getting nods of agreement from them while the spider ninja walk around them in a full circle, waiting for a chance to strike. One spider ninja leapt at Kasumi with the claws on his right arm swinging at her torso. She sidestepped the attack and strikes him in the side of the head with her elbow. The assassin is dazed from the counter-attack and Ayane takes this opportunity and slashes him diagonally across the chest, causing blood to spray out and then decapitates him. She then leaps over a charging spider ninja but then wraps her legs around his head from behind. She plants her arms on the ground and uses her lower body strength to lift the man off his feet and slams him head first into concrete and flips back on her feet. She then stabs a kunai into his chest and leaps away when the tag on the knife sizzles but then explodes, spraying blood and burned flesh everywhere. Naruto dodges a sword swing aimed at his torso and punches the spider nin twice in the ribs, making a few crack. The spider ninja coughs up blood and stumbles while Naruto leaps over him, grabs his enemy by the head, flips and throws his enemy into another spider ninja and they are sent flying off the dock and crashing into the water. Tasuki and Momiji were dodging, blocking, and striking at the spider ninja that were attacking them in a dance of death. While Momiji would block and avert the strikes, Tasuki would strike them down with her blades and kunai knives. Ryu slides on the ground past a spider nin that tried to vivisect him with his katana and wakizashi, but the young dragon hacks off both of his legs, making him fall over and then stabs the nin in the skull, ing him instantly. 10 minutes later. The docks were littered with the bodies, blood, and limbs of the spider nin. Naruto lets out a frustrating sigh and brushes his hair back. That bastard got away, damn it. Now, we lost our only lead to Gato. He irritated. Ryu kicks one of the bodies into the water while Momiji and Tasuki disposed of them with fire jutsu. Yes. This mission just got more complicated now that the spider nin knows we're after Gato. Ayane was cleaning off her Fuma Kodachi with a cloth and then realized something. "The bridge builder," she said for her the answer, getting Kasumi's attention. "What was that, Nei-san?" Kasumi asks her half-sister. Seeing Ayane quickly turn to Naruto. "Naruto, was Zabuza after the bridge builder, correct?" She asked the blonde, who nodded, but then his eyes widen. I can't believe I didn't realize it sooner. The bridge builder was Gato's target. Without him, the bridge won't be completed, so Gato would either target him or the man's family. He stated. So the bridge builder is our key to getting Gato. Tasuki stated about the connection between the bridge builder, the spider nin, and Zabuza. Yes. Pretty soon, Gato will have no choice but to come after the bridge builder. Momiji replies until Kasumi speaks up. What about Zabuza and the spider nin Gato hired? Due to the damage I've caused on the man, he won't be up for at least 2 weeks. That gives us plenty of time to wipe out Gato's smuggling stations on the island. First, we need to find the bridge builder's home. Our base of operation will be there for now. Naruto said, getting nods from them. Team Akuma and Team Tenchi were leaping through the rooftops, until they heard a scream and stopped. They then say a bunch of people running out of a bar and a roar was heard. Naruto, Ryu, and Suki's eyes become slitted and their arms twitched. I sensed a fiend in that bar. Naruto said in a dark tone. The three of them leap off the rooftop and land on the ground, heading towards the location of the fiend. Ayane sighs and motions the two kunoichi to follow her. Inside the bar . Naruto, Ryu and Tasuki run into the bar while the other people run out of the building screaming about a monster. What they see shocks them. It was a large red devilish bipedal dinosaur-like creature with clawed arms, 2 horns, dinosaur-like jaws, and a reptilian tail. It is twice the height of a full-grown human. In its maw was the bloody body of a human. Blood was dripping down its maw as it chomped down on its prey. It's a gala, Naruto muttered as he slowly drew his blade, as did Ryu, and they moved forward carefully. The gala continued to chomp down in the human until it paused and growled, making the 2 dragons tense up. The creature glared at a figure that was slowly walking towards it. The creature snarled and hissed at the person approaching it. The person was female. She was 5 feet 6 with blonde hair tied into a high ponytail. She had pale skin, platinum blonde hair, and icy blue eyes. She was dressed in a black leather outfit. It was a leather jacket and leather pants with knee-high boots. She also wore a tank top that showed off her midriff and had a massive warhammer strapped to her back. She appeared to be 17 and had a figure that would make any man keel over. The gala tosses its meal aside onto a broken table, and green saliva dripped from its maw and its green tongue hung out of its mouth. Hunger filled its yellow eyes and slowly approached his new prey. Ryu was about to intervene until Naruto stopped him with his arm. Ryu gave Naruto a questioning look and the blonde looked back at him. Let's see how this goes, he stated before turn his attention to the scene. The gala growls and crouches down at the blonde female. It then leaps forward with its maw opened wide and its claws ready to tear the female apart. Without warning, the blonde female pulled her warhammer off her back, and swung it instantly. The creature lets out a shriek due to the fact that the sharp edge of the warhammer severed its upper jaws from its body and was sent flying backwards into a pool table. Red and green blood oozed from its severed head and twitched violently as it melted away. The blonde then wipes the blood off her weapon and places it on her back. She then notices a group of ninja who just saw what she did and raised her eyebrow. There was only silence in the room, and that was when Naruto spoke up. That was impressive. You took down that gala like it was nothing, he said, impressed. Thanks. I guess, she replied. Are you by any chances to be a mercenary? Tasuki asked, only to get a head shake as an answer. No, I'm a fiend hunter. She answered Suki's question. Fiend hunter? I thought they all passed away after the genocide. Ayane stated. The woman chuckles and speaks up. Unfortunately, I'm one of the few remaining on this world, so we are close to being extinct. Plus the genocide was caused by a Greater fiend. She answered with venom in her voice. As the blonde women continue. Anyway, let's go somewhere away from this place and I'll explain everything. She said and walks out of the bar with the six following her. Chakra no Mori, Forest of Chakra, The blonde was leaning against a tree with her arms crossed over her chest and her weapon resting beside her while the two teams sitting on the logs. My name is Rachel. Since you'll already know my profession, I'm a fiend hunter. Rachel introduced with proclaimed, and that was when they introduced themselves, starting with Momiji. I'm Momiji Higurashi, a kunoichi for the Hayabusa village and protector of the Hayabusa clan's treasure. I'm Ayane Tenshin, former member of the Mugen Tenshin clan and kunoichi for the Hayabusa village. Ayane said. Kasumi Tenshin, heiress of the Mugen Tenshin clan and Ayane's half-sister. Kasumi said. Ryu Hayabusa, clan heir of the second branch of the Hayabusa clan. Ryu said. Tasuki Uzumaki Namikaze, daughter of the Godime Rukage Kushina Uzumaki Namikaze and late Yondaime Hokage Minato Namikaze. I'm the heiress of the main branch of the Hayabusa, Uzumaki and Namikaze clan. Tasuki said. And I'm Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, older brother of Tasuki Uzumaki Namikaze, heir to the main branch of the Hayabusa, Uzumaki and Namikaze clan. Son of the Godime Rukage Kushina Uzumaki Namikaze and late Yondaime Hokage Minato Namikaze. He finished. Rachel looked at them with wide eyes, but then they returned to normal. I see. So you're all ninja? She asks, getting nods in return. Yes, we are currently on a classified mission. Ryu explained, and that was when Naruto spoke up. Rachel-san, if I may ask, why do I sense the aura of a fiend on you? He asked, causing Rachel to tense up and look away. I was born with the cursed blood of the fiend. While I'm not like them, I have inherited their powers, but I can lose myself to my cursed blood, if I'm not careful. She explained, ashamed. So, you've inherited the fiend bloodline like the Black Spider clan. No wonder the fiend's energy I felt was so strong. It's close to matching a greater fiend's. Tasuki stated. So, you're hunting fiends in these parts? Momiji asked about Rachel's business. Yes, but unfortunately the fiend sightings are small and that Gala was one of the few I've ever encountered here, however most of them are appearing around the larger continents. She explained, making their eyes go widen. So the fiends are appearing in the larger continents. This isn't good. The only way they can appear so much is if the seal in Fuji broke or a greater fiend or two are in the elementals summoning them. Kasumi said while Rachel nodded about it. Yes, that is another possibility. She concluded and then grabs her war hammer and places it on her back. I must be going now and see if I can find out if any greater fiends are close. She says and gets ready to leave until Naruto speaks up. Rachel-san, when you get the chance, head to the Hayabusa village and inform my mother about this. If the fiends are starting to appear in the elemental nations, then it's not a good thing. Rachel looks at him and nodded, replied. I will and thanks. Well, see you around. With that, she walks into the darkness of the forest and disappears. Alright guys. Naruto said, getting their attention. Our mission has changed. We'll have to protect the bridge builder and his family from Gato's thugs and be on the lookout for Black Spider Ninja at the same time. He states while Tasuki sighs in frustration. Great. She mutters while Ryu chuckles. No one said the mission will be easy, Tasuki-chan. He comment. I'm glad it's not for once. In crime lords, pirates, and gangs gets kind of boring. Ayane stated, getting nods of agreement from Kasumi and Momiji. Okay then, we'll search for the bridge builder's home and inform him of our mission, but remember, be cautious of the Konoha nin. Naruto warned. You really don't like Konoha nin, huh, Naruto? Kasumi asked him. That made Naruto silent, for he mentioned it. After all, You told me and Momiji about her. She was there when you saved your first friend. After all, her mother took her away from you. Yes, her mother dragged her for protection. But tell me, when you spend half of your childhood getting chased and nearly by half of them, you wouldn't like them either, Kasumi-chan. He answered in a flat tone while Kasumi flinches and looks down. Sorry. She mumbles but Naruto sighs. No, it's fine. Now then let's look for the bridge builder's home. He said, mentally add. And hope I can see her too. And they vanish from the forest. Tasuki, Ryu, and Momiji were looking around the forest area for any sign of the bridge builder or his home, while Naruto, Ayane, and Kasumi were searching the small town. They kept leaping from the rooftops until Naruto stopped and saw a female wearing a pink shirt, blue skirt, and had long deep blue hair cornered in an alley with a brown bag in her arms trembling while two thugs with knives trapped her. Kasumi and Ayane did the same and glared at the sight. Even the women aren't safe in this country. Kasumi said with venom etching off her voice. Naruto said nothing and shunshuns away from them. Tsunami was trembling and backed into a corner. She was just getting food for her family and guests and these two thugs grabbed her and shoved her into an alley. The thugs grinned and were about to advance on her until one of them was sent flying out of the alley via kick to the face, and before the other thug could do anything, he keeled over from a punch to the gut and his face was shoved into a wall, rendering him unconscious. Naruto was the one responsible for knocking out the thugs and saving her. The blonde threw the unconscious man out of the alley and into a pile of garbage. He then turns his head to a shock and awed Tsunami. Are you okay, miss? He asks, getting a nod in return. Kasumi and Ayane appeared next to Naruto, making her, "Eep. We're not here to harm you, ma'am, so please relax," Ayane says in a calm tone while the woman lets out a sigh of relief. Sorry. Thanks for saving me. I'm Tsunami. She answered with introduce. Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze and these are my teammates, Ayane Tenshin and Kasumi Tenshin. We are ninja from the Hayabusa village and were given a mission by your leader to eliminate Gato. We recently lost someone who had a lot of intel on the man's location and we need to locate the bridge builder and his family since they are the man's primary targets. Naruto explained, causing Tsunami's eyes to widen. You too. My father is the bridge builder having ninja from Konoha protecting him. Tsunami answer with statement caused their eyes to widen. Getting a slight nod from Naruto. I see. Well then Tsunami-san, would be so kind and let us escort you to your home safely. He asked felt regretful and she nods. Yes, I would like that Naruto-san. Tsunami replied and that was when Ryu, Tasuki, and Momiji appeared. It's about time you three showed up. Naruto said seeing them here. Tasuki scoffs and ignores her brother. These are my other teammates, Tasuki Uzumaki Namikaze, Ryu Hayabusa, and Momiji Higurashi Tsunami-san. We'll be looking out for your family in case your current help is unable to. Naruto said gesture at the rest, until Tasuki spoke up. Aniki, why were we protecting her? She asked. She's the bridge builder's daughter. Ayane answered. Oh. After that Tsunami leads them to her house that was near the shores while keeping an eye out for Gato's goons and ninja he hired. Tazuna's house Inside Tazuna's house Kurenai was in his living room, sitting on a couch with her shoulder bandaged up. Better thank a certain pink-hair Kunoichi, Kakashi was proud and admitted for having her student to learn medical ninjutsu. Kakashi was recovering from chakra exhaustion so he had to recover on his feet for a couple of days. Before staring at Sakura with a suspicious look with his famous seeing, what is underneath, the underneath. When she got her shinobi training, seriously. The genin were in the room watching Tazuna and Inari, that was when the door opened and Tsunami walked in with the groceries in her arms. I'm back to San, Inari-chan. She called out. Tazuna saw his daughter walk in and was about to greet her, but then his eyes widened when he saw a 6 ninja walk in behind her. Tsunami-chan, who are those 6 ninja behind you? He asked with fear in his voice. As Kiba saw the blonde Ryu-nin and cried out with his finger point at him. Hey, you're the ninja who took on that Zabuza guy. Kiba's reaction caused them to tense up and Sasuke was getting ready to pull out a kunai. And include a certain pink hair felt nervously to see him or them. Yes. I should know I was practically fighting him, and Uchiha, if you don't want to lose that limb of yours, then I suggest that you stop going for your weapons. He said with replied and suggested in a dark tone, while in behind his left hand, he had a pair of shuriken ready to skewer the boy, before seeing Sasuke is about to took out his weapons. Sasuke saw the look in his eyes which reminded him of that look Itachi had after he wiped out the clan and gulped a little. This ninja is the real deal. He thought and decided to be smart for once and retract his hand. Smart move. Now then, we are not here to cause trouble, we are only here to complete our mission. Naruto said informed. And what is your mission exactly, Dragon Ninja? Kurenai asked Naruto, curiously. Simple. We are to Gato. He answered, getting looks of surprise and shock from them. Kill Gato? Tazuna asked with a look of shock on his face. Yes. Your leader hired us to get rid of the man, due to his ties to the criminal underworld and illegal smuggling. Apparently Tazuna-san, you and your family are his targets. Momiji explained. So you're using us as bait to complete your mission? Tazuna muttered in an angry voice. No. You and your family are not bait. Your lives and safety are very important to us. Tasuki answered, and that was when Inari scoffed, getting their attention. Oh please. Do you honestly think you can Gato? You're all just gonna die. He stated. Inari, don't say such things. These ninjas saved my life earlier. Tsunami yelled. Inari just brooded and ran to his room. Nice kid you have there, Tsunami-san. Naruto said with a hint of sarcasm in his voice, only for Tasuki to elbow him in the ribs. I'm so sorry about Inari-chan. Our family has a bad history with Gato, and ever since then my son has changed. Tsunami explained. It's okay, Tsunami-san. Naruto replied. That was when Kakashi spoke up. So, are you gonna stay here as well? The copycat asked. No, we'll be staying close to the house in our tents. Oh, and so that you know, you'll need to be on high alert due to the fact that Gato has hired help. Ryu stated until Hinata spoke up. But we saw your teammate deal with Zabuza. Shy Girl said. I wasn't referring to Zabuza. I was referring to the Black Spider Nin. Ryu answered, causing Kakashi's and Kurenai's eyes to widen in fear while the genin looked confused. Who are the Black Spider Nin? Kiba asks while Akamaru barked while Naruto answered his question. They are members of the Black Spider clan who hail in Mashin no Kuni, Devil Country, and have a village known as Yamagakure, the village hidden in darkness. Like the Hayabusa clan, they are feared too, in the shinobi world, and can be more ruthless and dangerous than the dragon ninja. Naruto explained, and that was when Sakura spoke up. I've never heard of that village. She stated. Like my cousin said, that's because that village and ours live in the west. We are not part of the elemental nations. Kasumi said. Kakashi groans and curses to himself. I never would have thought that I'd have to face ninja from that clan ever again. He muttered. Sensei? Sakura asked with a concerned look on her face. The last time I've faced them was during the last war. If I had to pick between fighting an army of Iwa Nin or them, I'd rather face the Iwa Nin. Those ninja, like the dragon ninja said, are ruthlessers and have been bred to become the perfect assassins like the dragon nin. They will not rest until they their target, and they do not take prisoners. They show mercy to no one. Not even women or children are safe from their path of destruction. He finished causing the genins to pale. And one felt nervous. So what do we do? Shino asks the leaders. Leave the spider ninja to us. We have more experience dealing with them. You genin wouldn't last 2 seconds against them. Naruto answered, causing Sasuke to frown. And why should we listen to you? The prick asked while Naruto raised an eyebrow at his glare. I didn't say you had to listen to me, kid. If you want to get yourself, then be my guest. Naruto answered, making the boy growl. I'm an Uchiha. Those spider ninja are insects compared to me and my clan. He said with arrogance in his voice. And what would that make your clan? Worms or dirt? Tsuki asked in a mocking tone. Sasuke's eyes flared at the red head and clenches his fist. Watch your mouth, bitch, or all. He spat out until Tsuki appeared in front of him with her hand wrapped around his throat and slammed him against the wall. She had a kunai in her hand that was pressed against his throat, her eyes were as cold as ice, and the Uchiha was scared shitless. Call me a bitch again, weakling, and I'll spill your lifeblood all over this floor. She threatened, and suddenly had a look of disgust on her face when she got a whiff of him shitting himself in his pants and threw him onto the floor. Naruto stayed quiet when this happened. I suggest you teach that kid humility, Kakashi Hatake, and beat the arrogance out of him, before he is ethered by Maimaudo, my partner, or me. We have our fair share of ninja, politics, and criminals, and this runt will just be another death added to our list. He finished before looking at the same girl. Can I borrow one of your genins? Which made Kakashi and Kurenai confused. Why? Which one? Kurenai asked. The girl with a pink hair. Naruto answered that made Sakura. Eep. The genin surprised minus the Uchiha growl, until Kakashi standing behind her with a protective mood. The copycat was curious about Naruto's, was serious about Sakura. Why did you want from Sakura for? Kakashi demanded. Nothing. I just want to talk, in private. But don't worry, I won't bite her. Naruto replied. That only made Kakashi stand down. Until Sakura approaches Naruto. Before the blonde lend her ear whispered. Is your mother Mebuki Haruno? How? Sakura is about to ask before she shocked look at Naruto at the side. As Naruto quickly place his finger on her mouth before place a single finger on his lips of silent. I'll tell you when we'll take you on the camp. Naruto replied, getting a nod from Sakura before the Konoha group saw Sakura shocked, they're wondering of how she knew them or not. As Tsuki and Ryu saw it coming, so the best is keep themselves a secret. Until Sakura look at her sensei. Can I, sensei? She asked anxious, only gained a sigh from the copycat and nodded. You may. As Naruto place his hand on her shoulder besides her and his team before they leave and informed. We will be watching the house from outside, after the little talk with your student, copycat, and if I were you, I'd train them, because Zabuza is still alive. With that, then they shunshin out of the house with Sakura, and into the forest close to the house, leaving a shocked and scared group. What was he going to do with Sakura? Kiba wondered. With Kakashi got informed by Mebuki after the graduation. She secretly discussed with him at home. Flashback started. Before the team assignment recommended, since the Sandaime and Kakashi went to the Haruno residence. After the discussion with the Team 7's instructor, then she told Sandaime for have a talk with Kakashi. As the Sandaime left, then leaving them alone. Until he noticed he activate a privacy seal. Then with Mebuki spoke. Kakashi-san. There is something to need to know about my daughter. What is it? Kakashi asked. If you or Sakura encounter or heard someone, came. Had my daughter to talk to, someone. Mebuki suggested. Who? Kakashi wondering. You'll find out soon enough. Mebuki replied with a smirk. And it started with, symbol of the dragon. Flashback ended.